The arrival of the Deathworlder Cadets. The galaxy had seen countless military forces rise and fall, but nothing could prepare the alien forces for what was about to happen. The planet, a place under siege for over 100 years, had long been a symbol of unbreakable resistance. The aliens who called this world home had built their fortress to withstand any attack, and for a century they had successfully repelled every invader. But today was different. The ground rumbled as a massive ship descended from the sky, cutting through the clouds with an almost eerie precision. It was an enormous craft, sleek and black, its hull glinting in the pale light of the distant sun. The ship was like no other seen by the aliens before. It didn't look like it was meant to carry armies, but rather to make a statement. Inside, the Deathworlder Cadets were ready for the challenge ahead. These young humans, fresh from the toughest training on some of the most dangerous planets in the galaxy, were about to face an enemy unlike any they had encountered before. They had been trained on worlds where the air could kill them, where the ground itself could swallow them whole, and where creatures of unimaginable power hunted them every day. As the ship landed with a low hum, the cadets gathered at the exit ramp, preparing themselves for the unknown. The heavy doors opened, revealing the alien landscape outside. Dust rose from the barren ground, and the faint scent of sulfur lingered in the air. The cadets stepped out, their boots hitting the ground with a solid thud. Their leader, Captain Rowan, was the first to speak. He turned to face the group of cadets who had trained their whole lives for this moment. "Remember, we're here to break a record," he said with a quiet confidence. "This has been 100 years in the making. Our mission is simple. We shatter their siege. We do what no one else has done. We make history." The cadets nodded, their expressions determined. They knew the stakes were high. The alien forces had built a fortress so strong, no one had ever breached it, not even close. Their siege against the invaders had lasted over a century. It was a symbol of their strength, their pride, and their unyielding will to survive. But the Deathworlder Cadets weren't here to admire it. They were here to defeat it. The aliens had been watching from their observation posts, and they were already gathering in their fortified positions. They saw the humans land, but they weren't worried. Yet, what could these young cadets possibly do against the power of their unbreakable fortress? The aliens had seen hundreds of armies fail. They had seen their defenses withstand every assault, and they had laughed at the thought of humans succeeding where others had failed. But as the Deathworlder Cadets moved toward the base of the alien fortress, something strange began to happen. The aliens' advanced sensors picked up something they didn't expect. The cadets weren't just walking into a battle, they were walking into history. "Prepare for the worst," one alien commander muttered to his team. "We'll need everything we've got to stop them." But it was too late. The first cadet raised his weapon, a sleek, glowing rifle that hummed with power, and fired. The blast hit the first barrier with a burst of energy, and the alien defenses began to tremble. The aliens had expected the usual slow, cautious assault from any invading force. But the Deathworlder Cadets were different. They were fast, agile, and relentless. Their attacks were precise, coordinated, and calculated. With every move, they seemed to shatter another defense, pushing the aliens back further than they had ever been forced to retreat before. The aliens watched in shock, their minds racing to comprehend what was happening. For the first time in a century, they were losing ground. The human cadets were breaking through their defenses in minutes, not days. Each strike from the cadets seemed to weaken their stronghold more and more. "They can't be human," one alien soldier whispered in disbelief. "No one can move this fast. No one can hit this hard." But the Deathworlder Cadets weren't interested in showing off. They weren't fighting for glory. They were fighting for survival. And as they pushed forward, their movements were fluid and relentless, as though they had already won the battle in their minds. Captain Rowan and his team moved as one, their movements synchronized with military precision. They had trained for this moment, and every step they took was a step toward victory. Each cadet knew their role, knew how to push the alien defenses to their breaking point. They had studied every aspect of the alien fortress, every vulnerability. And now, they were exploiting it with ease. As the last of the outer defenses crumbled, the aliens began to panic. They had thought their fortress was indestructible, but it was falling apart piece by piece under the relentless assault of the Cadets. The alien commanders scrambled to deploy their elite forces, but the Cadets were too fast. "This is impossible," an alien commander muttered as he watched his forces retreat. "How are they doing this?" The Deathworlder Cadets had arrived with one goal in mind: to break the 100-year siege record. The aliens had no idea what they were up against, and in a matter of minutes they would understand that their fortress was no match for the strength and willpower of the humans. As the first wave of Cadets reached the heart of the alien defenses, the ground shook. The aliens could feel it now. Their century-old siege was ending, and the humans had just begun. The Deathworlders had arrived, and they were ready to rewrite history. The alien defenses, a fortress of fear. The alien fortress loomed in the distance, its walls towering high, designed to withstand every assault known to galactic warfare. For over a century, the alien forces had perfected their defenses, confident that no one, no matter how powerful, could ever breach their stronghold. This was a place where invaders had failed, where resistance had been absolute, and where hope had been crushed again and again. But the Deathworlder Cadets had a different plan. As they marched towards the fortress, a strange calmness settled over them. They were ready. Their training had prepared them for this, for impossible odds and unimaginable challenges. But the aliens didn't know that. They only saw the humans as another fleeting enemy to be dealt with. The alien commanders watched through their high-tech surveillance systems, skeptical but not yet worried. "This will be over quickly," one of the alien generals muttered, watching the humans from a command station. He had seen countless enemies face their fortress before, and none had succeeded. Not one. The fortress itself was a marvel of alien engineering, a sprawling complex built deep into the planet's surface. It was shielded by advanced energy fields, armored by thick layers of force fields and weapons systems that could obliterate anything in its path. Automated drones patrolled the skies, and heavy artillery mounted on the walls stood ready to fire at a moment's notice. For any other army, this would have been an impenetrable wall, a barrier they could never breach. But the Deathworlder Cadets were not any ordinary army. As they neared the outer perimeter of the fortress, Captain Rowan gave a quick, sharp order: "Prepare for entry. No hesitations. Move swiftly." The Cadets scattered into position, their weapons at the ready. They knew they had only one chance to break through. One mistake, one delay, and they would be overwhelmed by the alien forces. With a single motion, the Cadets activated their stealth cloaks, blending seamlessly into the rocky landscape around them. The alien defense systems, designed to detect only large, slow-moving objects, didn't even register the Cadets' presence. "Target identified. System locked," one of the alien sentries said, but by the time he finished speaking, a sharp explosion rang out. The outer walls of the fortress shook violently as the Cadets breached the first layer of defense. The aliens reacted instantly, activating their shields and dispatching reinforcements. But they were too late. The Deathworlders had already begun their assault, and every movement was calculated with deadly precision. The Cadets fired energy blasts that tore through alien armor like paper. The drones that had once filled the sky with menacing red lights now fell one by one, their systems fried by the Cadets' advanced weaponry. The alien commanders were in disbelief. How can they move so quickly? How can they breach our outer defenses in minutes? One commander exclaimed, watching his fortress crumble. The first wave of Cadets, armed with high-powered energy rifles, blasted through the perimeter gates. They didn't hesitate, didn't slow down. They moved with such speed and coordination that the aliens couldn't keep up. The alien forces, used to a slower, more deliberate attack, were caught off guard. Their automated defenses, no match for the raw speed and unpredictability of the Deathworlders, were quickly overwhelmed. The aliens tried to fight back, firing blasts of energy at the cadets. But each shot was carefully dodged, every counterattack a precise strike. The aliens' weaponry, advanced though it was, couldn't match the cadets' relentless speed and ferocity. They didn't wait for their enemies to make the first move. The Deathworlders controlled the battlefield. "I don't understand. How are they doing this?" one alien officer muttered, unable to comprehend the sudden loss of control. "They shouldn't be this fast. They shouldn't be this strong." The fortress, once thought to be an unbreakable wall, was now nothing more than a crumbling ruin. The Deathworlders tore through every layer of defense. Shields failed, energy barriers flickered out, and massive artillery cannons fell silent as the cadets disabled the power sources one by one. It was as if the fortress itself was surrendering to the overwhelming power of the humans. Despite the rapid advancement of the cadets, the alien forces still had their elite soldiers, their last line of defense. They were the strongest, the most skilled, and the most deadly of all the aliens. These warriors were prepared to do anything to stop the humans from advancing further into the heart of the fortress. The battle, however, had already begun to shift in the Deathworlders' favor. Their relentless push was starting to break the aliens' morale. Captain Rowan led the charge, his eyes scanning the battlefield, focusing on his next target. The alien elite forces had begun to assemble in the center of the courtyard. But the cadets, already in position, were moving swiftly to meet them. Rowan gave a single hand gesture, signaling his team to converge. Within seconds, the elite soldiers were surrounded. "Focus on the power cores," Rowan called out to his team. "Take them out. We can't let them regroup." And with that, the Deathworlders began to disable the heart of the alien fortress. They knew that if they could sever the power of the alien stronghold, the entire siege would fall apart. The aliens had no idea that the young humans, seemingly outmatched in every way, were already on their way to breaking the century-old record. It didn't take long before the aliens realized that they were facing something far more dangerous than they had ever anticipated. The Deathworlder cadets were not here to simply fight. They were here to win. And with every passing minute, their success seemed inevitable. The first clash, breaking the alien front line. The heart of the alien fortress was just ahead. It stood tall and mighty, but the Deathworlder cadets were determined. The outer defenses had been shattered in a matter of minutes, but the real challenge was still waiting inside. The cadets could hear the sounds of alien soldiers scrambling to regroup. Their fortress was falling, and they were desperate to stop the unstoppable. Captain Rowan surveyed the battlefield. His team was ready. They had breached the first line of defenses, but the deeper they went, the stronger the resistance would get. The alien soldiers would fight with everything they had, but Rowan knew his cadets were prepared for what was coming. "We push forward," Captain Rowan ordered. "No hesitation, no retreat." The team moved forward with precision. Each cadet knew their role. Some were trained in sabotage, others in sharpshooting, and some in hand-to-hand combat. Together, they made the perfect team. Every movement was coordinated, every shot was calculated. They made their way toward the central command area, where the alien high command was stationed. As they rounded the corner, they encountered their first real obstacle. A group of elite alien soldiers had gathered to make their stand. These were the strongest of the alien forces, the ones who had held back invaders for years. They were equipped with the most advanced weaponry and armor, capable of withstanding a great deal of damage. But the Deathworlders were different. They didn't hesitate. One of the cadets, Lieutenant Cade, took the lead. With a sharp nod from Rowan, Cade sprinted toward the alien soldiers, his rifle raised. His gun fired in rapid succession, sending bursts of energy blasting through the air. The alien soldiers reacted quickly, but they were no match for his speed. Cade moved like a shadow, never staying in one place for too long. He dodged the alien fire with ease, his body instinctively shifting out of the line of attack. The aliens tried to regroup, but the cadets were everywhere. In the blink of an eye, another cadet, Sergeant Mia, had snuck behind their lines and disabled one of their automated turrets. She moved like a ghost, using her knowledge of stealth tactics to silently take out the biggest threat. The alien soldiers began to panic. They weren't used to an enemy that could move so swiftly, so decisively. As the first clash continued, the Deathworlders pushed forward. Each strike was a calculated blow, each movement precise. The aliens fought back with everything they had, but they were outmatched. The cadets were relentless, their training and instinct guiding them in perfect synchronization. The alien soldiers began to fall one by one, their weapons no match for the speed and accuracy of the Deathworlders. "Keep pushing forward," Rowan yelled, rallying his team. "Don't give them a chance to recover." The cadets surged forward, breaking through the alien ranks. Their weapons, glowing with power, tore through the enemy's defenses. The alien soldiers, once confident in their strength, now found themselves struggling to hold their ground. The Deathworlders were everywhere, attacking from every direction, using their superior tactics and agility to overwhelm their enemies. One of the alien commanders, watching the battle unfold from the safety of his command post, couldn't believe what he was seeing. The humans had already breached their defenses, and now they were tearing through their elite soldiers as if they were nothing. The aliens had underestimated them. They had thought the humans would fail, just as every other enemy had. But this was no ordinary army. "Impossible," the commander muttered. "How are they doing this? How are they breaking through our defenses so easily?" He watched as another wave of cadets infiltrated the heart of the fortress, and he realized with a sinking feeling that they were not just fighting for survival. The Deathworlder cadets were on the verge of something much bigger, breaking a record that had stood for a century. As the battle raged on, the Deathworlders continued to push forward, showing no signs of slowing down. Their determination was unyielding, their will to succeed stronger than the alien forces' desire to hold their ground. The fortress, once seen as an impenetrable stronghold, was now starting to crumble. Captain Rowan and his team were relentless. With every push, they got closer to the alien command center. But they knew they had to move quickly. The aliens wouldn't give up easily. They would fight until the very end. But the Deathworlders were ready for that too. One of the cadets, Private Kiera, spotted the central control room at the end of the hall. It was heavily guarded by alien soldiers, but the door was beginning to close, signaling the aliens' attempt to fall back and regroup. Kiera didn't hesitate. She sprinted toward the door, firing her rifle to clear the path. Her movements were swift, her aim perfect. The aliens fell one by one, unable to stop her. The control room door slid open, and the cadets charged in. "On me," Captain Rowan shouted as he and the rest of the team followed Kiera inside. The final battle was about to begin. The aliens inside the control room were ready, but so were the Deathworlders. The battle would come down to this. If they could break the alien command center, the siege would be over. The record would be shattered. But the aliens were desperate. They would do anything to stop them. The cadets stood together, ready for what would come next. They had come this far. They weren't going to stop now. With determination in their eyes, they prepared for the final clash that would decide the fate of the siege. The last stand, breaking the siege. The control room was unlike anything the cadets had seen before. It was a vast, intimidating chamber, filled with alien technology that hummed and whirred, all controlled by a central core. The walls were adorned with intricate alien symbols, glowing with an eerie light. The air was thick with the tension of the impending battle. Inside, alien soldiers stood ready, their weapons aimed at the doorway. They were the last line of defense for the fortress. These weren't just any soldiers. These were the elite of the elite, the ones who had been trained to hold their ground no matter the cost. The cadets had already proven their skill on the battlefield, but now they faced the final, most formidable challenge of all: taking down the alien command center and breaking the siege. Captain Rowan took a moment to scan the room. He could hear the low hum of alien machinery, the rapid breathing of his team, and the faint clicking of weapons being readied. There was no turning back now. They had come this far, and the stakes were higher than ever. "Stay sharp," Rowan whispered, his voice steady but filled with urgency. "We've made it this far. Now we finish it." His team nodded in unison, all of them understanding the gravity of the moment. They had been trained for this. Every movement, every decision, every action had led to this point. "Let's move." The cadets stormed into the room. Immediately, the alien soldiers opened fire, their weapons unleashing a barrage of energy blasts. The bright, erratic flashes lit up the room as the cadets scattered, using the alien control panels and machinery as cover. The first wave of shots missed, but the aliens weren't giving up so easily. They were experienced, skilled, and deadly. Cade, the sharpshooter, ducked behind a console and fired back with pinpoint accuracy, taking out two of the aliens before they could react. His weapon hummed as the energy blasts whizzed by him. He adjusted his aim and took down a third alien, his shots always true, always on target. "Keep the pressure on them," Rowan ordered, signaling for his team to advance. The cadets didn't hesitate. Mia, the tech specialist, sprinted towards a nearby control terminal, hacking into the system to disable the alien weaponry. Her fingers danced across the holographic interface as she worked at lightning speed, overriding the alien systems. Within seconds, the automated turrets in the room shut down, leaving the aliens vulnerable. Kiera, the stealth expert, used this opportunity to move behind enemy lines. She moved silently, like a shadow, taking out two of the alien soldiers before they even realized she was there. But even with the advantage, the fight was far from over. The alien soldiers were still formidable, and they fought back with everything they had. One alien soldier, a towering brute in heavy armor, swung a massive energy sword at Rowan, who narrowly dodged the strike. The force of the swing sent shockwaves through the floor, but Rowan was already moving. He countered with a swift, calculated strike of his own, using his blade to disarm the alien warrior. Rowan quickly followed up with another blow, this time landing a direct hit to the alien's chest. The alien fell to the ground, defeated, but Rowan didn't have time to celebrate. More aliens were closing in, and they weren't giving up. As the fight raged on, Captain Rowan noticed something he hadn't seen before. The alien soldiers were beginning to lose their resolve. They were slowing down, their movements becoming more erratic and panicked. The cadence of their attacks had changed, no longer coordinated but desperate. Rowan's eyes flicked toward the central control core. The alien forces had gathered around it, and that was where their last hope rested. If the Deathworlders could reach the core and disable it, the fortress would fall. The siege would be over. But the aliens had fortified that area, and they were prepared to protect it at all costs. "This is it," Rowan shouted. "We push forward now, or we risk everything." His voice cut through the chaos. The cadets responded immediately, their focus unwavering. They knew what was at stake. Together, they pushed forward, taking down one alien after another, their weapons now a blur of deadly energy. As they neared the control core, an alien commander stepped forward. He was tall, intimidating, and radiated authority. His eyes were filled with fury as he raised a massive energy rifle, aiming directly at Rowan. "You think you can break us? You're nothing but ants beneath our feet," the alien commander spat. But Rowan didn't flinch. He knew what he had to do. With a quick, decisive motion, he activated his comlink and signaled to his team. Now, in that moment, the cadets moved as one. Cade fired his rifle from a distance, taking out the alien commander's weapon with a precise shot. Mia, still at the control panel, activated the final override to shut down the core's energy shield. The core, once protected by layers of security, began to flicker and fade, its defenses collapsing under the pressure of the Cadets' relentless assault. The alien soldiers, now faced with an overwhelming force, tried to retreat, but it was too late. With one final push, the Deathworlder Cadets reached the control core. Kira, her hand steady, disabled the final locks and turned off the core's power. A deep rumble echoed through the fortress as the lights began to flicker. It was over. The alien fortress, once thought to be invincible, had fallen. The siege that had lasted for a century had been shattered in mere hours. The Deathworlder Cadets stood victorious, their mission complete. The record had been broken, but even in their victory there was no time to rest. The alien commanders were regrouping, ready to launch a final counterattack. But for now, the Cadets had succeeded in what no one else had thought possible. As the alien fortress crumbled around them, Captain Rowan looked to his team, his face filled with pride and determination. "We've done it," he said, his voice calm yet filled with a sense of triumph. "Now we end this once and for all." The siege was broken. The Deathworlders had proven their strength, and the aliens had been left speechless. The counterattack. Aliens' last desperate move. The alien fortress, once a symbol of strength and invulnerability, was now nothing more than a crumbling relic. The Deathworlder Cadets had shattered its defenses with incredible speed and precision. But as the dust settled and the battlefield became eerily quiet, Captain Rowan knew the fight was far from over. The alien forces weren't defeated yet. Far from it. The most dangerous part of any siege was always the final push, the desperate, last-ditch effort to regain control. Rowan could feel it in the air, the tension, the unease. The aliens weren't going to accept defeat without one final attempt to turn the tide. His instincts, honed from years of experience, told him the aliens were preparing something big, something that could change the course of the battle. "Stay alert," Rowan warned his team, his voice low but urgent. "This isn't over." The Cadets tightened their grip on their weapons, their eyes scanning the horizon. They had disabled the core, but they knew the alien command was far from helpless. The enemy was retreating, but they would regroup, reorganize, and strike back. The question was, where and when? Captain Rowan's suspicion proved correct. The rumble of distant engines reached his ears just as he was about to issue orders for his team to regroup. He motioned for the Cadets to move into defensive positions, but even as they took cover, they saw something that made their hearts race. Massive war machines, the size of small buildings, appeared from the depths of the alien fortress. These machines, designed for ultimate destruction, were now charging toward the Cadets' position. Each one was bristling with weapons, laser cannons, plasma turrets, and missile pods, ready to fire. The aliens had pulled out their ultimate weapon. "Take cover. Don't let them get close," Rowan shouted. The Cadets reacted instantly. They scattered, using the wreckage of the fortress as cover. Kira, always the quick thinker, scrambled to a higher vantage point to get a clear shot. She found a ledge overlooking the battlefield and set up her rifle, peering through the scope. The war machines were advancing, and the alien soldiers inside them were prepared to unleash destruction. "Got a clean shot," Kira reported, targeting the lead war machine. "Do it," Rowan ordered. Kira squeezed the trigger. The energy shot from her sniper rifle cut through the air, slamming into the lead war machine's turret. The explosion was massive, and the war machine staggered, smoke billowing from its damaged frame. But the other machines didn't slow down. Instead, they fired their weapons in unison, launching waves of energy blasts toward the Cadets' position. The ground shook with each impact, sending tremors through the entire fortress. "Return fire. Focus on their engines," Rowan barked. He knew that if they could disable the war machine's power sources, they would stand a chance of winning. Cade, the sharpshooter, aimed at another war machine's engines. He fired, his shots precise and deadly, striking the power core of one of the machines. Sparks flew, and the machine faltered, its energy shield flickering. But the alien forces weren't just relying on their war machines. They had brought in more troops, infantry, advanced mech suits, and specialized forces. The battlefield was becoming chaotic. Alien soldiers moved in coordinated groups, launching attacks from every angle. Despite the initial success of the Deathworlders, the aliens were closing in fast. "We need to fall back." Mia, the tech expert, yelled over the comms. "We can't hold out here for much longer." Captain Rowan hesitated for only a second. He looked at his team, his gaze locking with each of them in turn. They had come this far, fought so hard, and now, with the war machines advancing, their situation was becoming increasingly dire. They couldn't afford to be surrounded. But then something shifted. Rowan's eyes narrowed, and he quickly formulated a plan. "No, we don't fall back. We fight smarter, not harder. We use their machines against them," he said, his voice resolute. He quickly relayed orders to his team. "Kira, Cade, take out the remaining war machines. Mia, I need you to hack into their system and disable their comms. If we cut off their communication, they won't be able to coordinate their attacks." The cadets moved swiftly, trusting Rowan's leadership. Mia sprinted toward an exposed console, her fingers flying over the controls as she hacked into the alien network. It wasn't easy. The alien systems were complex, designed to resist intrusions, but Mia was relentless. Within moments, she had breached the comms network, sending a virus to scramble the alien forces' communications. As chaos spread among the alien ranks, the Deathworlders seized the opportunity. Kira and Cade, working in tandem, took down the remaining war machines. Kira fired another shot at the power core of a second war machine, and the explosion rocked the battlefield. Cade, never missing a beat, fired a precise shot into the cockpit of a mech suit, disabling it instantly. With their communications shattered and their war machines neutralized, the alien forces began to panic. The Deathworlders had seized control of the battlefield, turning the tide in their favor. But the alien commanders were not about to give up. Rowan could feel the shift in the air. He knew they would try one final tactic to regain their position, and he was ready for it. The remaining alien forces regrouped, but now, instead of pushing forward, they were retreating, trying to find a safe place to regroup and reorganize. It was their last chance to fight back. But Captain Rowan wasn't about to let them escape. He rallied his team, and with a single order, they began to move toward the alien stronghold once more. They would finish this battle, once and for all. "This ends now," Rowan said, his voice low and filled with the resolve of a commander who knew what needed to be done. As the Deathworlder cadets advanced, the aliens knew their time was up. The siege was broken, the record shattered, and the invincible fortress was no more. The final push. The siege is broken. The battlefield was a scene of chaos and destruction. The once imposing alien fortress was now nothing more than a wrecked shell of its former self. Captain Rowan and his team had faced wave after wave of alien resistance, from mech suits to war machines, but now, with their communications disrupted and their most powerful weapons disabled, the aliens were on the verge of collapse. However, Captain Rowan wasn't one to take any chances. As the cadets moved forward, their weapons still raised and ready, he could sense the tension in the air. The aliens were regrouping, desperate for one final strike. But the Deathworlders were prepared for it. "Stay sharp," Rowan ordered, his voice steady but filled with determination. "This is where we end it. We've broken their siege. Now we make sure they can't come back." The team moved with precision, every step calculated, every action instinctive. They had become a well-oiled machine, each member knowing exactly what to do and when to do it. As they reached the heart of the alien fortress, the air seemed to grow thicker, the atmosphere heavier with each step. "We're almost there," Kira said, her voice crackling over the comms. Her eyes scanned the walls, watching for any signs of movement. Mia, the tech expert, was already working on the next phase of their mission. Her fingers moved quickly over her datapad, pulling up the blueprints of the fortress. She had already hacked into the system once, but now she needed to locate the alien command center. If they could destroy the central hub, it would disable whatever remained of the fortress defenses. "I've got it," Maya said, her voice steady. "The command center is 2 levels down. It's well guarded, but we can make it." Rowan nodded. "We push through. No retreat. No hesitation." The cadets continued their march toward the command center, knowing full well what was at stake. The last remnants of alien resistance were digging in, but they had no idea what was coming. The Deathworlders had already shattered a century-long siege record, and now they were about to complete what no one thought possible, destroying the alien invaders once and for all. As they entered the next corridor, they encountered the last line of defense, a heavily fortified door that led straight to the alien command center. The door was lined with reinforced plating and guarded by a handful of elite alien soldiers. These were no ordinary infantry. They wore heavy armor and wielded energy blades that crackled with lethal power. It was clear they were the last hope of the alien forces, sent to hold the line at all costs. The cadets wasted no time. Rowan signaled for them to take positions. Cade, the sharpshooter, took aim from a distance, while Kira flanked to the side, preparing for a stealth approach. Mia, having hacked into the fortress's security systems, deactivated the alarms and the automated defenses that lined the hallways. "I'll take the right flank," Kira whispered, her voice barely audible as she moved into position. She had already blended into the shadows, making her way closer to the group of aliens standing guard. "Wait for my signal," Rowan instructed, his voice calm but filled with purpose. The tension in the air was thick, and every cadet was on edge. They could feel the enemy's presence just beyond the door, preparing for what they thought would be their final stand. Rowan could hear their heady breathing, could sense their desperation. The aliens had nowhere to go. They were backed into a corner, and they knew it. With a nod, Rowan gave the signal. Now. In an instant, chaos erupted. Cade fired from his position, his shots accurate and lethal. The first alien guard fell to the ground before he even had time to react. Kira, ever the silent hunter, struck from the shadows, taking down 2 more soldiers with swift and deadly precision. The remaining aliens were caught off guard, their plans to retaliate crushed before they could even form. The cadets surged forward, bursting through the door. Rowan led the charge, his blade cutting through the air as he took down the first alien commander he encountered. The rest of the team followed suit, their weapons a blur of motion. The final line of alien defense was broken in moments. The cadets didn't stop to celebrate their success. They knew the real battle lay ahead. Beyond the door, the alien command center waited, its destruction the final step in securing their victory. Inside, the core of the fortress glowed with a strange, pulsing energy. This was where the true power of the alien invaders lay, the heart of their strength. But Rowan and his team weren't intimidated. They had faced down the best the aliens had to offer and emerged victorious. This final obstacle would be no different. Rowan stepped forward, surveying the room. Alien technicians and commanders scrambled to react, but it was already too late. Mia quickly found a terminal and accessed the system. Her fingers flew over the keys as she disabled the energy shields and began the countdown to destabilize the core. "We have 5 minutes," Maya reported, her voice steady, but with a hint of urgency. Rowan nodded. "Let's move." The cadets cleared the room, taking out any remaining alien soldiers that had dared to make a stand. The air was tense as they made their way toward the exit, the final moments of their mission ticking down. As they reached the hallway, the ground shook beneath their feet. The countdown was complete. With one final explosion, the alien command center imploded, taking the fortress with it. The rumble of the explosion echoed through the walls as the entire structure began to collapse. The Deathworlder cadets had done the impossible. The siege was broken. The alien invaders were defeated, and they had left the aliens, once so confident in their superiority, speechless. As the dust settled, Captain Rowan stood tall, his team by his side. The Deathworlders had proven their strength, and the universe would remember the name of those who had shattered the siege record, defied the odds, and destroyed an empire. A new dawn, the aftermath of victory. The destruction of the alien fortress reverberated throughout the galaxy, a thunderous echo that marked the end of the siege and the beginning of a new era. The Deathworlder cadets had achieved the impossible. They had shattered a century-long siege record, destroyed an alien empire's stronghold, and left their adversaries utterly speechless. But in the aftermath of their victory, the cadets knew their journey was far from over. As the dust cleared and the wreckage of the once imposing fortress settled into ruins, Captain Rowan surveyed the battlefield. The mission was complete, but the weight of what they had achieved was still sinking in. The enemy had been crushed, their power broken. Yet, the Deathworlders knew they had only scratched the surface of the larger war that awaited them. The team stood silently for a moment, their weapons lowered but their eyes scanning the horizon. Each cadet reflected on the battle in their own way. The explosions, the fierce fighting, and the overwhelming odds they had faced and defeated. It was a victory no one would ever forget. "We did it," Kira said quietly, her voice full of awe. But Rowan knew better than to bask in victory for too long. They had only won one battle in a much larger war. The aliens weren't the only threat lurking in the galaxy, and the cadets' actions would send ripples throughout the stars. As victorious as they were, they couldn't afford to rest. "It's over for now," Rowan replied, his voice calm but full of purpose. "But this isn't the end. It's just the beginning." Mia stepped forward, holding up her data pad as she processed the final data. "The command center is gone, and the fortress has collapsed. We've crippled their entire operation here. But we've also uncovered something troubling." Rowan turned to her. "What do you mean?" "There's a transmission I intercepted just before we blew up the core," Mia explained, her expression serious. "It's a distress signal from another alien fleet, one far larger than anything we've seen. It's heading this way." A hush fell over the group as the implications of Mia's words sank in. They had taken down the enemy's stronghold, but now, it seemed, an even greater threat was on the horizon. "We've only just begun to make our mark," Rowan said, his voice filled with resolve. "The aliens will retaliate. We need to prepare for whatever comes next." The cadets nodded in agreement. They knew their victory wasn't just a symbol of triumph, it was a declaration of defiance. Humanity had faced seemingly insurmountable odds, and they had not only survived, they had conquered. As the team began to regroup, Rowan looked at each of them, his gaze filled with pride. These were the best of the best, the Deathworlder cadets. They had proven themselves on the battlefield, shown unparalleled courage, and defeated an enemy many thought unbeatable. But now, they had to face the unknown future. "Let's get back to base," Rowan commanded. "We'll regroup, refuel, and prepare for the next phase." Kira, always the optimist, smiled. "We've shattered their record. What's next? A whole new galaxy to conquer." Rowan grinned, though his expression remained serious. "The next chapter begins, but it's not about conquering, it's about survival. We've sent a message to the galaxy today, and now we need to make sure everyone hears it." The cadets gathered their gear, their faces reflecting the weight of their accomplishment and the realization that the war was far from over. But they were ready to face whatever came next, armed with the knowledge that, as Deathworlders, they had the strength, the courage, and the will to overcome any challenge. As they boarded their ships and prepared to leave the shattered remains of the alien fortress, the stars stretched out before them. The universe was vast, and the war was far from over. But one thing was certain: humanity had proven its place among the stars, and the galaxy would never be the same again.